lovely people. Welcome to another episode of the Devrel Show. Always happy to be here, but I need to warn you today. My back hurt so much that, like, if I do weird faces during the show, it's not because of what my guest is saying. It's just me, like, crying in silence, or I may change my position once in a while. It's not because it's not interesting. Again, it's just my back. Short story long, long story short, I have herniated disc, and once in a while, they don't want to play nice with me. And today is one of those days. So, just a fair warning to start the show. Outside of that, life is magnificent. I'm just coming back from a couple of conferences. It's good to be back in the conference industry. It's good to be back talking to other developers, having fun, discussing my project, my product, Tiny MC, and just meeting new folks, seeing actual friends, and doing live stream like I'm doing right now. So I am with Joseph, my guest from today. How is life, Joseph?
Hey, how's it going? Great, man. Thank you for having me on. I love the intro song there. It was catchy. I was about to jump on the drums there and start jamming along.
Yeah, we're gonna need to talk about your background. There is a lot of like instrument there, so I assume there's something you do on your personal time that is related to music. But I just love the intro. Every time I do that, I didn't do it today, but usually I spend the first 5 seconds of the show going live still dancing, even if the music is done, because I just it's kind of a way to get into the show. Like there's rhythm, and you just get excited about, like, yes, the Devrel show is going to start. So, oh my god, I love the mug.
Oh, yeah.
So much.
Yeah, man, I'm a huge Star Trek nerd.
That's amazing. So let's start right away. Let me ask you, who are you?
I'm Joseph. I'm the head of developer relations at Appsmith. I've been with the company about 4 years, and I was actually a real active member in the community before I joined the team. I was answering questions in the support in Discord, and at one point maybe answering more than the support team, just because I was real active in there. I came in at first asking questions and then started answering them. Got involved in a hackathon and posted a couple tutorials, and the next thing I knew, they were calling me up, offering me a job, and they wanted me to come make the tutorials for them. So yeah, I've been with, like I said, about 4 years with Appsmith. Before that, I was a full-time freelancer, building apps for different industries, different types of customers, and a few different platforms. I had switched between Google Apps Sheet. Before Google bought it, actually, I was real active in their freelancer community, and then switched to Appsmith, which led to the job here. So just kind of a lot of different low code and no code platforms, and that eventually led to Appsmith and as a freelancer, and then now as head of DevRel.
I like that. I really love the story about the fact that, like, you were a contributor before, and they saw you as an active contributor, someone who was building knowledge, someone who was having experience with the tool, and they were like, why should we go outside to hire folks when we have people within their community that know their stuff? I think it's just a great story. I like that.
That. It's there's a few of us on the team that came from the community, and I think it really makes a difference in how much you understand the product when you first join, and how much you take feedback from the community and keep bringing that back to the product team, and vice versa. It's just a different level of connection when you actually came from that community, as opposed to you're brand new when you just start and not having used it. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah, and that makes me think about my friend John when we were at Fitbit. He was working at what was the name, Pebble, and this is the same story he had. Like, basically, he was helping in the community because he was passionate about a product, and Pebble hired him because they were like, "Hey, you're excited already about the product. You already know it. would you like to be paid to do part of what you were doing for free? So that's a great thing for people
Yeah.
part of those like different tech communities. I know you're doing this because you're passionate about. I know because you use the application, the product, but like maybe it's not always the case, but maybe there is a job at the end of the tunnel. It always come back to what I say to people that are looking to move in developer relation. It's not really about like, oh, giving free work to like those other companies, but it's about like start doing the job that you're going to be paid to do, so you can show people that like even if you don't have professional experience doing it, you still have the passion and you're still able to do it. And I guess it's a little bit what happened with you.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to work in a field that you're actually passionate about, that you this is something I was doing for fun anyway on the side before I was hired. I wasn't trying to get a job when I posted those tutorials. It was a fun weekend project. It was like, cool, look what I built, and that now I get paid to do that. So I love it.
I like that question about that. And it's fine if you don't want to answer. Maybe it's too personal, but I was talking with a friend 2 days ago about that and the fact that personally, I don't do a lot of like meetups or conferences or things outside of work because now it's my work to do that. Like before I started to be a developer advocate, I was going to meetups, I was organizing meetups, I was organizing conferences, I was speaking at events, I was writing blog posts, and I was doing those on my free time because my career at that point, I was a software developer and I was not able to do those kind of things where I was doing those on my free time. But when I started to get paid to do those, it's not that I don't like to do them anymore. It's just now I'm doing these things also during my day to day, meaning that like on my free time, personally, I don't do those anymore. So I was just curious, is it the case for you too, or you're still like
Um,
doing?
it's almost opposite actually, but I think for a different reason, because I'm in a smaller city, Tallahassee. It's the capital, but it's not, uh, San Francisco or New York or even Atlanta size, right? So we don't have really a big tech meetup scene. And
Okay.
several months ago, I joined one group that they were meeting before COVID, and then it had just kind of disbanded, and it was just starting to get back together. So I joined as a co-organizer on that one. And then there was another one that was AI focused, but they'd never met in person. And last night we had our third meetup. So I joined as a co-organizer a few months ago. And
Nice.
last night was the third one, but it was the first since we became a chapter of the global AI community, which is the largest nonprofit AI focused community like that. They're 122,000 members and
Oh wow.
140 chapters now that Tallahassee is one. And and then there's a new one, Code and Coffee, that I'm starting. This one's more hands-on workshops because the other two are a little more just networking. And we do have one person presenting, but it's like we're at a restaurant after work, ordering pizza, having a beer or whatever. And it's not the best environment for a workshop to have every single person have a laptop out. So this new one that we just started a new chapter of Code and Coffee Tallahassee as well. And so that one, yeah, I want to do more workshops. And I think I've kind of had the opposite experience of doing more of it now because when I first got into DevRel, living here in a smaller city, we didn't have that kind of stuff. And if I was in a bigger city, I would be going to those. I'd be giving talks, I'd be just networking and going to the events as part of my job. But I'll travel for work for bigger ones several times a year. But I'm not in an area where I can just drop in and do those,
Hmm.
here and there without much planning. So since we don't have them, I'm making it happen. There's three now, once a month. So I'm co-organizer on a couple of them, and one of them I actually started from scratch. So now there's a decent tech scene for it, and it's picking up pretty quick. Actually, one of them has gone from 24 to 75 members in like 2 months.
That's good. And its point are totally valid. Like I think I'm privileged enough to live in a place now. I'm just outside of Montreal, but Montreal is one of the like three big cities in Canada, and we have like so many tech meetups
Mhm.
that I could just like. I used to organize some of them. I started a couple of them, but I could like just like remove myself from the process, and like there's still a lot of meetups,
Yeah.
and I feel like still. this week I was in a conference. Actually, Monday I was in a conference, Evolve Digital in Montreal, and one of the other speaker, when it was promoting the event, was like, "Hey, Fred's gonna be there. We don't see him that much anymore in Montreal." And I know he said that like in a good way, like, "Hey, take that opportunity. You can see Fred speaking."
Mhm.
But Jean-Luc, if you're watching, I also felt it a little bit personally because I was like, he's right. Like, I stopped doing things in my own city because, I do so many of those things outside around the world,
Mhm.
everywhere. And I'm like, when I'm come back home, I'm like, you know what? I like, as much as I love doing my job, as much as I love seeing people, I was like, I need a small break, but I think it's important to still be connected to your local community, to the people that are part of that like community where you live. So I like that what you're doing that. And funny story, we're talking a little bit about the code and coffee, or coffee and
Yeah,
code, which
Code and Coffee.
code and coffee, before the show. And actually, it was not the same events that I organized a couple of years ago. I think 14 years ago I was doing coffee and code, but it was not a workshop. Like, we had no workshop, it was not prepared. It was basically, we meet at a coffee shop and we just work together. So it was especially
Mm.
for people that are either in a really small development team or freelance, or people that don't have the chance like to work with other developers. And if I want to be honest, the working part was not the most part that we're doing. It was mostly let's have a coffee and chat
Yeah.
together, like just like meeting together. Because when we go to meetups, it's like there's a presentation, and yes, there's a networking part, but usually like it's a small chunk of like the whole evening. So that was just great doing that. So I was doing that in Montreal, and once in a while, depending when I was traveling, I was doing those. And it just gave me the idea of like I should probably continue to do those at least when I'm traveling. I was in Denver last week. I could have like organized like the day after, like, hey, let's meet at a coffee shop for lunch and just like meet the local community. Doing that without the workshop part doesn't require too much organization. It's just like choosing a place, announcing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I should continue to do that. Before I move to, I have something else to ask you. Anuj, always a pleasure for you. I mean, man, you're a regular now. You are at every episode, and I just love it. So, welcome to the Devrel Show. Nice to quote unquote see you again. So, Joseph, question for you: what does that mean to be the head of developer relation at Appsmith?
Yeah. Well, I started out, like I said, from the community, joined the team, and was just, devrel, just making content. At first, I was, not really focused on like the bigger mission or whatever. It was like, hey, I'm getting paid to make tutorials and templates, right? And I loved it. But then as I've evolved and moved up, and now head of devrel, a lot more focused on OKRs and numbers, and like which metrics are important, which ones are really moving the needle. And we have a couple different ways to look at it. There's like the metrics that are easily to attribute to devrel actions, like we produced X number of videos, X number of likes or subscribers, right? But those are like vanity metrics.
Mm-hmm.
They're not actually closing the deal. But then on the other side of that, the ones that do close the deal, it's almost impossible to say that this customer signed up and this deal was closed because this person wrote a tutorial, right? So there's the numbers that we can easily attribute, but we can easily attribute to our actions as far as we made those numbers go up, but then they're not the final ones that we're most concerned with, with closing deals or whatever. And so the way that we approach it to try to get that attributing an action to it is you can work in campaigns. And like, say you are trying to move the needle in a certain direction around a certain feature or a new part of the platform that you're trying to drive adoption on. Well, if we produce several videos and tutorials around that, we're not going to know for sure which video or tutorial closed which deal. But if we see the two go up together, and then maybe next quarter we have a campaign that's more focused on the enablement and expansion, land and expand instead of the awareness part. So it's figuring out what numbers you want to track and how to link those and how to communicate that with the rest of the team, and at the same time trying to pay attention to everything that I did at the beginning, which was more on the community side and
Yes.
one-on-one interacting with them. And and not let that fall to the wayside as I move up and I'm more focused on more bigger picture things. So yeah, it's that juggling of kind of going up a level and trying to look at the big picture, but also not forget about everything that is still important. The community is still really important, you know?
I can't agree more. I think community is, from my point of view, and people may disagree, or developer advocates may disagree, but I think it's the foundation of developer relation, because this is how you build relation with people. This is how you show the human side of the company. This is how you help people being successful. It also helps you to identify potential, I don't know, partners, potential guests on the show, potential
Yeah.
customers, potential employees. I mean, you get a job because you were part of the community, because you were helping in the community. So I like that. I love also that you touch base about, how to measure devrel, because it's often something that people are struggling with. Like, how do we measure the success? Like, how do we measure that we're having an impact? Because devrel is a little less a direct line when it comes to like measuring the impact. Like, I don't know, the sales team was like, yeah, we sold like that amount of money of license, that amount of money of subscription, or I don't know, the engineering team like, oh, we release V2, or we release that feature that we wanted to release. Like, developer relations, from my point of view, like everything we do affected or part of the business, everything that the rest of the business is doing impact what we're trying to do in a positive or not always positive way. But like, how can we measure like the specific impact that devrel has, and how can we measure the return on investment, because that's an investment that we do with developer relation.
Yeah, I think that's a constant battle. Anyone in devrel trying to like to figure out what are the most important metrics to to try to strive towards, or whatever. Which are the easy ones to measure? Which are the ones that maybe you don't have direct influence on, but you're still tracking.
Yep.
And I'm sure you're going through the same thing. You just started at Tiny MC not too long ago, right?
Exactly.
So it's fun. It's I enjoy the beginning phase of figuring out what everything is. Like exactly what metrics you're going to track, and maybe a different approach, and getting it all into play is kind of one skill set or challenge. And then, okay, now we figured out what we're going to track, and just getting the flywheel effect going of, get some content out there, distribute it, get the feedback, get it back to the product team, and then do the next piece of content. And so it's kind of two different stages of it or whatever. Right. And then you're constantly adjusting too, once you get into the production stage. But it's it's a very interesting career, man. Like just the mix of content creation and technical and presenting and communication. There's so many different aspects to it.
Yeah, I always say it's like 20 jobs in one, because like we need to do so many things to be able like to really like be successful and do your job. I like that you mentioned also the fact that like our job is like, yes, part creating content and like creating awareness, like be that I like to call myself the public friendly like the public friendly, technical, approachable face of the company. But also my job is to bring the feedback to the product team, because I talk to people, because I hear feedback, because usually developer, hopefully they're going to be honest with me, and they're going to tell me like if something is good, something is bad. And my job is to bring this back to the product team to be sure, are we going in the right direction, to influence the roadmap, to maybe prioritize their stuff, or just learn about stuff that we did not know. Because we know the product, because we know how it's working. So it's great that, like you mentioned, it's important for you. I have a question about GreenFlux, but just before, Anuj, I cannot agree more. The DevRel show is addictive. I know. And the good thing about the DevRel show is that, yes, you're stuck with me with every episode, because that's my show. But if it was just me, that show would be boring as fuck. It's all about the guests. It's because I have amazing people every other week that come to the show, that share their experience, that share their vision about developer relation. And, at the beginning, the idea of this show was like, let's just have a discussion with people. We all love to talk. I guess it's part of the job. It's why people pay us. But I was like, also, we are so technical folks. So it's why I decided to go with like, okay, let's do a small demo at the end of the show, maybe like half of the discussion part,
Mhm.
something technical, something related for developers. So at least like if people are a little less interested in like the discussion around DevRel, at least has developers, DevOps, GitOps people that can still learn like technical skills a little bit, like if they would go to a meetup or if they would watch like any other webinar online. But yeah, no, thanks, Anush, for the great work. So Joseph, I wanted to ask you because you've been at Appsmith for about 4 years now, but before you had actually, I think you still have your business called
Yep.
GreenFlux. What is GreenFlux? Because it's your website, it's your blog, it's your business. So I'm just curious to learn a little more about that, and maybe if you want to share like the transition between Green. Actually, you talked about like this Appsmith saw you, and yeah, so
Mhm.
just talk about GreenFlux.
Yeah. So it started around 2013 or 14. I was working at National High Magnetic Field Laboratory here in Tallahassee. It's part of Los Alamos Laboratory, just a satellite campus of it. And so I was working there, and there was this database that the person that had built it had moved up multiple, levels since he built it. Basically, had no time to maintain it, and there were a lot of things that needed changed. Like we needed a drop down or a new option added, just little things, but it was a big backlog. And and so I taught myself. It's this program called FileMaker Pro that Apple owns. It's kind of like Microsoft Access, but for Mac. It's been around like 40 years.
Oh, wait.
But that's what they were using at the lab. And so I taught myself how to use it. I went to the admin that had the password. I'm like, hey, this is what we need to change. Here's my copy of it. I had built up from scratch, just kind of a little demo to show that I knew how to do what I was asking for the password, right? And so they gave me the password. I fixed a couple things that we needed, and then that just opened the floodgates. They're like, "Oh, you know how to fix this stuff? Here, can you do this? Can you change that?" And so I got really heavy into it, learned a bunch, and built several other databases for the lab. And then one day, somebody called me up at work, trying to like poach me from the company. They're like, "Hey, will you come work for us and do this?" I'm like, well, no, but I'll help you. What do you need? And so the side work came to me. I wasn't even trying to do it. And then after a few, I'm like, well, maybe I should try to make a thing out of this. So I started doing Upwork and Fiverr. That took off. And at one point I was working like 80 hours a week, but the second 40 was paying way more. So in 2016, I started my own business and left the full-time job there. Started it through a local startup incubator that we have here in town. And they help with the legal and financial side and insurance and basically the stuff I knew nothing about. I knew how to develop and freelance, but I didn't know how to do the taxes or have insurance or anything, right? And so they helped me set all that up. And then I got real involved in AppSheet before Google bought it. And I mean, it was a really small community. I don't want to brag, but I was like maybe one of the top freelancers in the world on this tiny little platform that, hardly anybody had heard of. But then Google bought it, and then a lot of people started hearing about it, right? And it got really big fast. And I was already well established as a top freelancer in that community. And so I had way more work coming in, more leads than I could possibly handle. And I started helping other guys become freelancers. Like they were active in the community and they had the skills to develop, but they were just like me when I started. I didn't know where to start with talking to customers and generating leads and how to do the taxes. It just so many questions that would prevent you from taking the next step, And so I helped 3 different guys go full-time, to leave their jobs and become full-time freelancers, and was sending them my overflow work. And then when I switched from AppSheet to Appsmith, it took 2 agencies and 2 solo devs to take over all of my clients that I gave away.
That's pretty cool.
GreenFlux was doing great. I never thought I would work for another company again. I love doing my own thing remotely, and I had no intention of even looking for a job. But then I found Appsmith, fell in love with the product, and I made it my main tool to build apps for my customers. And still no plans of ever working for anybody again. It was my new tool. And after posting a couple tutorials, and then they called me up and offered a job. And like, I love open source. I love Appsmith, as a product. Every interaction I'd had with the team was great. The community and the support was excellent. And I went from thinking I'd never work for anybody else again to getting an offer and saying yes in like 48 hours.
That's great. That's a great story. I mean, first, I didn't know Sheet was acquired by Google. I thought it was like their own product, which I'm not surprised though. I mean, I think a lot of like Google's product has been acquisition and not something that they build in house. But really great story. I think what I get from what you were saying is, from my point of view, and I may be wrong, but that's what I took from the story, is that like if you're passionate about something, if you're passionate and you really put your heart into something, like good things will happen. But maybe I'm naive. I like to see the positive in things and like the beautiful things in life. And I think it's that, like, it's not always like that, unfortunately, but I think it helps if you, really like pour your heart into something, you're passionate about it. Like people saw that, like, oh, you were able to help and you started to work with that product. And after that, Appsmith, and it goes in a great direction, the right direction from my point of view.
Yeah. And like you said, maybe not every time, but I do think it has a huge impact on it. When it's something that you're passionate about and it's not just a job.
Yeah. And especially, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I work because I need money, because we live in a world where I need money. And that's the reason why I work. But if there is an opportunity, and we're privileged in tech, we're privileged in developer relation, it's maybe not possible to be passionate about everything you do as a job in life, but we can be passionate about, and there's nothing wrong to work for the sake of working. As I said, I need a paycheck, so it's why I have a job. Like, if there is a way for you to also be a little bit passionate about what you do, a little bit excited about what you do, it makes it easier to work about 40 hours a week. And especially in developer relation, I think that specific career in tech is probably, and maybe that's going to be controversial, but I think it's impossible to do that job if you're not excited or passionate about your product or your company, because that's going to translate.
It's going to be really hard to fake it. Yeah.
Exactly.
You got to show that you really believe in the product, and it has to be authentic, right? And if you're trying to sell it to somebody and you're not, your emotions not into it or whatever, I don't know. So somebody might be able to pull it off and fake it, but I think most DevRel, you really have to know and love the product, and something that you would be promoting just to a friend if it wasn't your job.
No, I agree. And last question about your career, and after that I want to talk about your background, the background you have
cool.
right now. But before that, you told me something before the show. I want you to talk a little bit about that. But you basically told me before starting in tech, I was like Omer. So explain that part a little bit.
Sure. So I mentioned the magnet lab that I worked at, which was kind of the beginning of my tech career, and the transition from engineering and mechanical stuff into more computer engineering. And before that, I was in the Navy. I was a reactor operator, and then I was also an instructor for the nuke school. So I started up a reactor, same job as Homer Simpson. I sat at that reactor control panel, just like in the cartoon where there's that panel with all the lights and buttons and alarms and everything in front of them, right? That's the panel, the reactor plant control panel that operates the control rods and raises and lowers them to change the reactor power. So that's the station I worked at. And then when I went through the training program, they picked the top students from each rating. There's like electricians, mechanics, and electronics techs. And so I was a nuke electronics tech, and they offered to let me stay as an instructor. Normally you would finish the school and then go to sea for 4 years, do the job, and then come back and be an instructor. But I got to skip going to sea and went straight from graduating as a student to becoming a teacher. And they do that to supplement the number of teachers, basically, or they're not enough manning. and so they'll pick the best of the best students to stay behind and to just help the next couple classes. So I got to do that, and it's just kind of a fun fact. I like to joke that I had the same job as Homer Simpson, only I actually had to do stuff when it alarmed. I couldn't. Like I think he puts in earplugs when the alarms start going off and just is ignoring it, And yeah, it was a really cool, interesting job though. A lot of red tape though. Like there was so much paperwork involved just to get the most basic piece of maintenance done. Like you just need to change a fuse or whatever, and it could take all day just to get somebody's signature, and then you've been there 10 hours, you're ready to go home, but you also just got permission to start. So guess what? Go have fun. But yeah, that was before tech. I was a reactor operator, and then high power magnet power plant and cooling plant operator.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. I like people who have like a totally different career than tech. Like for me, it's a little bit boring. I always worked in tech, like outside of my student job, where I was working at a bowling. I started to work in tech. I changed the focus of my career because at first I was a software developer for the first 10 years. And after that, for the last 14 years now, I'm in developer relation, but it was always like tech related. But I like having guests who did not start their professional career in tech. So there's always like a great story. But there's a question from Claude. Claude, it's been forever. Life is good. Are you still in Montreal? Close enough. So a year ago, I moved in the suburb of Montreal in Mascouche. Decided that I needed a little more fresh air, a little less, like a little more green, a little more quiet. So now I'm a suburb person. Still go to Montreal quite often though, because that's that's the city. But I guess I'm a suburb person now. So, yeah, nice for you to be here, Claude. And yeah, actually, as I was saying, Joseph, I don't do a lot of things anymore in Montreal community. So, like Monday when I was at that event, I've seen people that I didn't see for so many years, and it was like just a bunch of like old tech community farts that came back together during an event.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was fun. So, music. What's happening with music? Because there's clearly something about it for you.
Yeah. It is mainly guitar. I'll actually call myself a guitarist. Everything else is just for fun. Like I cannot claim to be a drummer. I'm trying to learn drums, and I definitely enjoy playing. But I can't really play anything on its own. I play along to some metal, crank it up, and just wail on it and get a good workout. I got an accordion not too long ago, just kind of as a gag thing for fun. But I'd actually hurt my shoulder and was trying to I run and I mountain bike, but I don't know. I just can't get into like doing like weight upper body stuff. And I'm like, I'll get an accordion. That'll help. So that's my upper body exercise. And then I've also got a keyboard over here and a bass back there. And yeah, but the guitar is the main instrument. I've been playing it for 36 years. Drums only about a year, accordion like about the same, and keyboard maybe 6 months or so. I got the accordion first, and it's really hard to learn how to play it when you can't see the buttons. So they tell you to practice in front of the mirror, and they're like, okay, if you can just see it in the mirror, you'll know where the keys or whatever. But that's really only helps if you know the key layout to begin with, if you know piano. And so I ended up getting a keyboard so I could practice and learn while I can see my hands and see the keys, right? And then I get some kind of muscle memory, and then I'll go play it on accordion and like, okay, I know where the keys are. But I play metal. I'll do Slayer and Slipknot on it and stuff.
That's nice. Yeah, no, I tried it once. I have a friend, Joey Davila, call himself the accordion guy because every time you see Joey at any events or basically anywhere, actually, I think he's nearly sleeping with the accordion. He always has his accordion. And I used to work with him when I was at Microsoft. Amazing guy. He moved to the States. He's a Canadian, moved to the States. But if you see Joey at a conference with his accordion, he will play at some point, like during the break, before a keynote, after a keynote, during the party. Ask him about his popular pop song, but made with a tech twist. He changed the lyrics for stuff that are just funny, and he made me try it once, and it was like, yep, not working for me. I mean, like, I don't play music. I don't have the dexterity to do that, so I have no muscle memory. So for me, it was like, I do not know the piano, and I do not know how to squeeze that thing so it makes proper sound.
Such a weird instrument.
It is. But Joey is amazing. Like, he do this like his eyes closed, but he's playing for years. So yeah. And Claude was saying, I am linked to Joseph as well. So
I thought I recognized him. Yeah, I just saw something on LinkedIn recently. I think we were commenting on the same thread.
Wonderful. Awesome. So, you told us that you work at Appsmith. My God, I'm struggling to talk now. Appsmith, but we didn't really talk about what is Appsmith, and for reasons, because that's going to be part of your demo. So the stage is up for you. Tell us a little more about Appsmith, and show us. I think you wanted to show us some cool application or cool stuff you've done.
Yeah,
with
I got a
Appsmith
couple
for your blog.
They're more advanced use cases, but not the common ones. They're more kind of creative, fun ones I wanted to show. So
Wonderful.
Appsmith is a low-code platform. It's drag and drop on the front end. So you don't need to know any front-end code, CSS. You're not worried about padding or whatever. But then on the back end, it's very code-heavy and developer-friendly. So you can write JavaScript and import libraries. You're writing the SQL and JSON directly to interact with the APIs and databases instead of that being abstracted away. So when it comes to connecting to data or transforming it, it's exactly like you're used to in any other developer environment. But then the front end side, full drag and drop, and you don't write any code. And so I think it's a great mix that really speeds things up. And then we also have some newer stuff that we're working on. We're actually going to be launching something newer. I can't say anything about yet, but I'm going to demo the low code platform, and then here, maybe the next time we're on, or next time I can talk about it. I can't say too much else right now on what's coming. So
that's good. That's good. I respect that. I mean, like, as a developer advocate, we would like to talk about everything right away, but there is some business processes out there that we need to respect.
Yeah. So if we're ready, I'll go ahead and share share the first one.
Please go.
All right. Now this one, can you see the app here?
Yes.
Okay. This is not an end user app. I know it's a little clunky with what's going on here. It's not really laid out like a good UI. Well, it's not a end user tool. It's a developer tool that helps me build charts so that I can put that in the next app. And what I found, I use eCharts a lot. This library, it's great for charting, but the data type, the data structure, basically the shape that your data needs to be in to use these charts tends to be different for each chart type. Like the input data to get this polar chart would be totally different than the shape of the XY data for this line chart, right? And the function that transforms the data to make that chart is going to be different based on the input data and the type of chart that you want. And every single combination of this input data and this chart type, every combo is different, and it requires a different function. And so I made this app to help write that function that goes in between, to bridge the data that I have with the chart that I want. And so it's a one-time thing that a dev would use to build the chart and then go put that in the next app. So let me show you how to use it real quick. I'm going to we'll use this to-do table, and I'll ask for a pie chart of priority. And we're just going to start with a simple one here. So it sends a sample of the data, not all the rows. In this case, I have 25, but I'm only sending the first 3 rows. So it knows the column headers and the data types, and then the type of chart that I want. And it sends those 3 things to a OpenAI assistant that's been given a prompt that basically explains how Appsmith JS object works and how to format the code. And so if I put that code over here, and we'll just run this. So it's returned a function, not the full chart. The function is what actually returns the final value for the chart. And so now you can see I've got this pie chart by priority. And if I wanted to change the incoming data, right, the function's going to stay the same now. I did it this way because if I sent all the data to OpenAI. For one, that's burning way too many tokens. I don't need to send hundreds or thousands of rows and let it crunch all the numbers, right? And then two, if I did it that way, the pie chart's going to come back different every time because of, you know, the non-deterministic nature of LLMs. So what this does is it gives me back a function that I can repeatedly use. It's always going to give me the same chart now, right? So now let's do a nested pie chart of priority and completed. And there's a ton of other chart types you can do. I want to do one more while I'm on this data set, and then we'll switch to another one. So it sends all the different values, you know, the sample data and the prompt, and then it's checking for messages. And once that's complete, I can put it back over here. And the reason I have to copy and paste this over, I don't want to use eval, right? You don't want to just run code randomly that you got back from the internet like that. So it gives you a chance to check it. So now it's mixed all of those together, basically. I was kind of looking for the 2D nested, but what it's done is made combinations of the nines that are not complete and the nines that are complete or whatever. So it's pretty cool, really powerful. I want to go to a different data set and do one more. Let's do a heat map of item type versus, and I think there's a sale date or order ship date or something, shipping date. And I've been using this charting library for a long time, and I've written the JavaScript to transform the data manually plenty of times. And then I just got to, you know, where I'd be copying and pasting it into ChatGPT to get this, and eventually built this app. So now I can just ask the question from here, copy and paste it to get this new function. And now this one's going to create a heat map. So it's pretty awesome what it can come up with. It saves a ton of time. And then you could copy this now that you got the right type of chart and go put that in the next app. And so the end user is not going to see this, but it helps you get to that point. And then once you got the chart working the way you want it, then you can go put that in the next app.
So you built that chart generator with Appsmith? Oh,
yeah. All this is Appsmith. I got a couple queries here. One's just to get mock data, just so I have something to build on. And then I'm basically having a conversation with an OpenAI assistant and sending the user's prompt along with a sample of this data. And then the OpenAI assistant has some instructions saying, here's how to format it. If the user asks for this type of chart and they have this shape of data, the chart should look like this with this data structure. And so your job is to write the function that transforms it. And so I gave it a couple examples in that prompt. And so far it works, I mean, almost every single time. You can pick any one of those types of eChart examples, and it tends to already know everything from the training data without me having to provide extra. But if I get one that doesn't work, like there's some crazy map ones. Where's the map stuff? Yeah, like where there's a pie chart layered over different regions. And so I was trying to get one of these to work once and it wasn't coming out. And so I just came here and copied their example and pasted that in, and then it was able to figure it out. But most of them it gets right on the first try anyway. So it's pretty useful. Okay, so that's the first one I wanted to show. Next thing, last one here. So this is a knowledge graph that I made from all of the posts on my blog. And it was just kind of a fun experiment working with a custom widget. This entire app is all one widget. So in Appsmith, we have all these different widgets you can drag in and connect and build your app with these individual components. But then if none of those components work for your use case, we have a custom widget. Excuse me. And that lets you build the entire UI. There's a separate input for the CSS, JS, HTML, and you can pass in data. And so all of this is one big widget. The input up here, the sidebar, all of this stuff is a single custom widget that I wrote the code for. And so the app itself is just an API pulling the data from my blog. And then once I get that data into Appsmith, I'm writing the code to map over it and create this knowledge graph. And so I can click on a tag here and it shows all the posts that I've created with Google Apps Script. When you like select or deselect a tag, it shows them over there, or you can navigate from the post directly. And it's like a neat visualization and a cool way to explore the data, but it actually does more than that. So it also helps you find things about your data that you wouldn't notice at all in a table, or that you would have to write a very specific SQL query to even figure out. So like right now, I can see that there's a single tag here linking these two posts. And then we get out here and there's some tags that like only this one has. And most of them are all clustered together, and topics overlap. And I've written about something multiple times, right? But at a glance, I can see that there's this branch out here, multiple nodes out. That's just kind of a topic I haven't written on very much. And so you can see the topic that's linking those two is freelancing. And then out here, I've got one that's just a normal tag, like developer and work at home, on this old Upwork post that I did years ago when I was active on Upwork and before it was overrun with bots and scams. Yeah. So not promoting Upwork so much anymore these days, but yeah. And then the other cool thing I found when I made this, if I zoom way out, I ended up with two posts, but I didn't have any tags.
I have no friends.
Yeah, they have no friends. So I migrated my blog recently, and in doing that, I guess I missed a couple on these tags. And I thought about fixing it ahead of time, but I'm like, you know what? This is a great way to show what this helps you do with your data. And sure, I could do a search, right? I could think to ask, are any of my posts missing tags? And then I could write like a API request or SQL query or to check that, right? But first you have to think to even ask it and then actually run the query. And here you can see those things at a glance. I wasn't even looking for posts with no tags, but it was obvious. So it's just a really cool way to explore your data, and you end up finding new things you wouldn't have seen before.
I think I'm gonna try this on my blog. I don't write on my blog as much as I used to, but yeah, I would be curious to see like all the relations between all those.
So real quick, I want to just show the editor on this one. So there is a JS object here. I pulled in my blog posts and saved them basically as JSON instead of running the API every time. It was a little slower that way because it's paginated and I had to hit it like 6 times to get all the posts. So yeah, I just have an array of the posts here and then a JS object here. Actually, this is the async one that was running to get all my posts, but I'm not using that now. So basically there's almost no code at all in the Appsmith editor. It's in this one custom widget. And then when I go to edit the source of this custom widget, that's where all the code is inside that one block. Little bit of styling, very little HTML just for like the top bar and the sides. And then most of it is all happening in this JS object. Yeah. So the massive like array of posts here gets sent into the custom widget, and then it maps over all of that data and creates nodes and edges. And the Viz.js library is really easy to use once you have an array of nodes and edges. If you're calling a GraphQL API and it's already coming back that way, then there's like almost no code at all. It's just, here's the API response, give it to Viz.js, and boom, you've got the graph, right? Well, my data is not in that shape. So I have a lot of code that's mapping over it, creating those nodes and edges and pushing them to an array, and then adding tooltips and interactive, functions and whatnot. But most of that's just for like to add those extra features. And somewhere down here, document resize. Yeah, somewhere it's like you create a new Viz element and then you just give it the data and that's it. And that generates the entire chart. And it's just a couple lines of the part that actually does it. But yeah, it's mainly just like getting the data in the right shape is the majority of the code here. Nice. So yeah, that's it. Those are the two I wanted to demo. Like this is a pretty fun library to play around with.
It is. It is awesome. Thanks for the demo. That was an introduction for me about Appsmith. I never used it yet, but now I will probably give it a try. So thanks for sharing that with us. And I think it brings us to the end of the show. So, is there anything else you want to share with folks?
Um, like I said, we've got some new stuff coming out with Appsmith that I can't mention just quite yet, but keep an eye on the YouTube channel. We also have a series of interviews coming out. Last a couple weeks ago at DevrelCon, Kevin and I got the chance to interview a bunch of other DevRel. We just posted a video of Kevin interviewing Thor from 11 Labs. I've got one coming out with Jim Bennett from Galileo soon, and Gibson AI's CEO. There's tons of them on the way. And they're all focused around AI and DevRel and the products that they're building and agents right now. So really cool series. Basically like a whole season of podcasts that we recorded in one day at DevrelCon, and they'll be coming out slowly over the next couple months.
That's great. I'm a little bit jealous. I was supposed to go to DevrelCon. I bought my ticket last year after the previous edition, and I just started a new job, so it was difficult for me to go to the event this year, even if it's like the only conference for what I'm doing for the last more than a decade. But next year for sure. I should not say that, but like hopefully I'm gonna be there. Okay.
Awesome. Well, I was there the last 2 years. Definitely plan on going again next year. Maybe we'll get to do this in person. Record a DevRel show there.
That would be amazing. Actually, I have a long stint story with DevrelCon. It's been years that I want to go. They were doing it in Japan before and like other places somewhere in Europe. And I was always supposed to go, and always something came up that I was like, I cannot go. And last year I was like, oh, finally New York. Like it's closer to me. Like I'm in Montreal. Like I can basically drive there if I wanted, which I realized after. And last year they had like not tornado, but like the weather was really not good. All the flights were delayed, and actually I would have ended up I would have arrived on the last day of the events, and I was like, oh, you know what? Now it's like
I remember a few people being late because of the delays last year.
Yeah. So I was like, next year that's going to be my year, and this year was like, just started a new job. I feel like it's not a good timing to go like for 3-4 days doing other stuff. But next year, hopefully, I'm going to be there.
Cool.
So on that note, folks, thanks, Joseph, for being a guest on the show. It was a pleasure to chat with you, about your career, developer relation, learn more about Appsmith. And thanks, everybody who joined us live. Thanks to the people who will watch the recording. And stay tuned for the next episode on the DevRel Show in 2 weeks. So have a good rest of the day, everyone, and see you in 2 weeks.